Europe and Russia. What we want to look at is Britain completing its exit. Russia is now threatening Europe. Europe will ally with or be occupied by Russia, and USA looks unable to come to Europe's aid. Well, let's look at Europe. First of all, here's the Newsweek at the end of last year. Look at the front cover. Look at the date. Terminating last year. Putin is preparing for World War III. Front cover. What does that mean for us? Yeah, that's bad news. Not for us. Not for us. And he goes on to say, Russia, surrounded by enemies, is ready to fighting an epic war for survival. At least that's what Putin wants his countrymen to think. And he's put them on war alert. Staggering. Now we know, don't we, as we come across to the issue of Britain, that the merchants of Tarshish and all the young lions thereof are to oppose Gog or Russia. It's not going to be affiliated with it, it's going to oppose it. And so, in our early writings, we said this: the reader will see why Britain is not included in the 10 toes. She is reserved of God to antagonise Russia. Russia will rule the land, Britain will rule the seas. There was his words 170 years ago in Elpis, Israel. So what's been happening with Britain? It's been leaving Europe. Here we are, Theresa, packing in her bags with a lot of her businessmen to go to China, to sign deals with China. Look at the date, early this year. As well as that, their exports to India have doubled, and in some parts they're even talking about tripled. India, the eastern Tarshish, is affiliating with Britain in a big way. As well as that, she's aligning with Israel, along with others, countries. Here's a ship coming into Haifa harbour, loaded with stuff from Britain. But as well as that, as the article went on to say, the Jews can help Britain with matters concerning money and high-tech quality goods. Their technology is excellent. And so here we can see Britain, yes, its economy had dipped, but it's now beginning to pick up quite significantly. But as well as that, Russia's not happy. How World War III could start, cut the cable. What they're talking about? Well, Russian submarines have been coming down these cyber cables. These are the cyber cables where most of the data between computers is transmitted. And they've been going down it, not with subs this size usually, but they've been moving into that area. Russia could attack underwater internet cables, warns the British military chief, the top man. He said, look, they're coming into our waters. They're sending down 3 million subs, going down along the cyber cables, which are sunk in the mud, so no anchor can pull it up, and laying something. And they're fearful they're explosives. They're extremely concerned. Why? Because they could be cut off between Europe and Britain and USA and Britain, so that 97% of their data won't get through. 97% in just a fraction of a second, cut off. Well, what about the last 2%? Oh, Trump's got the answer. Putin's got the answer. Russia and China are fast developing high-tech lasers, missiles that could blow out the American satellites. There's the last 3%. So forget about Google, Facebook, and all that. Cut off in a moment. Putin can do so in a blink. So that's the situation. So Britain, concerned, quickly went up into the northern part of Britain to build a new radar rapidly, because they didn't have the total coverage they needed up the northern area. They're worried. But as well as that, the British Armed Forces chief says, prepare for war. Prepare for war. There he is. January this year. The Chief of the General Staff of the British Armed Forces has declared that Britain must actively prepare for war with Russia and other geopolitical rivals. It's concerning, he says. We've got to take it seriously. So, is Russia now threatening Europe? That's the issue. We know from Scripture that Magog, Central Europe, must be allied to Russia and France. Right? We see that also from Daniel's image, don't we? So here's the alliance, the Russian power with Central Europe and the Western European areas allied together. So almost all of Europe will be allied with Russia, not Britain. So that's the situation. And then again in our early writing, an exposition of Daniel, Dr. Thomas said this: there never has been such an age of conquest as that which will soon open upon the world. As to the establishment of European freedom and independence, the war is to be initiated is the setting in of an overwhelming inundation that will submerge them under one of the most terrible and scorching despotisms that ever wrung the heart of nations. And he's talking of Russian conquest. You know, last year I wrote this off to some of our friends in one of our Gmail, an email article. Russian military, according to Wikipedia, 1.096 million. But call-ups, another 2.4 million. Quite a big army. Russia's biggest war games in Europe, we'll look at them in a minute, was in September last year. 100,000 troops involved. World War III threats, fears Russia won't leave those manoeuvres which are on the borders of Europe. They send huge numbers of ships into the area of the Baltic Ocean. And Russia prepares to attack America over the North Pole. So the situation is pretty scary. Here is the leader of Lithuania. Russia is a threat to all of Europe, she says. This is going back a little. But the NATO boss said the Baltic states would fall in 36 to 60 hours if Russia attacked. Not long. They'll do it in a puff, so to speak. And one of the other things they've done is brought in close to Europe some new missiles. Putin's pretty pleased about this one. It weighs only 100 tonnes and it has 12 warheads. They're hydrogen bombs. A hydrogen bomb can be up to 3,800 times bigger than that tiny bomb they dropped on Hiroshima that closed the Second World War. And they've got 12 of them on the head. So let's ask Gizmodo what the strength of their H-bombs are. Well, one of them, they said, contains the explosive power of 10 times the combined firepower expended in World War II in one bomb. So Putin got on the phone to the French and said, you better tie up with us or we'll take you all out with one missile. One missile. Then he contacted the Americans and said, we can do the same to Texas. One missile with its 12 warheads. But they didn't stop there. Kaliningrad here, which is Russian-controlled territory, they have been bringing into there rapidly this year short-range nuclear missiles with a 400-kilometre range. So they claim they can use that area to control these parts, and they've got larger missiles way out here. They're saying to Europe, do what you're told, or look out. That's the implication. And they haven't stopped there. Just a few days ago, March the 1st, he mentioned about 4 or 5 different types of extremely sophisticated missiles and weapons that he can release. Putin's Armageddon weapon. Russia unveils an unstoppable nukes that can do supersonic speeds and cannot be hit by ground-air missiles. And so you see the scene developing. But come back to last year for a minute. The Economist. Russia was allowed to make a manoeuvre on the borders of Europe to defend itself, to practice It does so every 3 years. Zapad manoeuvre, it was called. They were allowed to bring in 12,000 troops. They brought 4,000 carriages in with troops on board. And the Economist said they brought in 100,000 troops and they haven't gone home. Oh, Russia said, yes, they have gone home. They have gone home. Yes, they came into this area, but we took them home. Ukraine, near where some of the railway lines went, said, yes, we could see the soldiers going home. But going back were those call-ups. So they took their crack troops out and put the call-ups in. They're still there. Still 100,000 troops there. And so the situation is changing. With that manoeuvre, they brought into Kaliningrad 70 naval vessels into the Baltic Ocean. As well as that, they like to tell America they've got a few missiles aimed their way along the Arctic Ocean. So it can go over the top of America. It's a bit short, a little less fuel. Atom bombs we can drop into your area. Just watch it. So this is what they're saying. But it isn't stopping there. Experts warn that UK is dangerously exposed to Russian cyber attack. What's going on? Well, last year, Russia launched an attack into the area of Britain and America using a cyber fault. They reckon it was one of the worst that the world has ever seen. They said they couldn't clear it out of the computers. They just had to throw the computer out and buy a new one. The cost, they said, was 1.9 billion. One company alone, a big shipping company, it cost them 300 million to replace all their computers. Just think of that. And now, the threat of Russia's cyber reprisals puts UK finance, power, water on high alert. The Russians will target Britain's critical national infrastructure. Date, this month. The Guardian. They're fearful that Russia will move with that virus and interrupt the computers that run the water supply, the power supply, the banking, the government of Britain. So Britain is very afraid. But not only that, Russian hackers now targeting power grid water system of USA. Targeting the power grid water systems and critical infrastructure of USA. Again, date, this month. This month. Oh, but other things are happening. You remember, the nerve gas was released against those two people and against this policeman, unfortunately, in Britain, in Salisbury, Britain. It was amazing. Theresa responded to it, Theresa May, dramatically. She put 500 police, 200 military personnel, soldiers, on the streets to try and track down what happened, how it came about. 80 ambulances were standing by. They lifted all the cars out of central Salisbury, took them out and put people with plastic garments on, checked them out to make sure there was no more poison in them. Why? Only 2 people, well, 3 got hit. What's going on? Well, we're going to ask one of the professors, a professor, senior lecturer of the Sydney University in chemistry. Salisbury attack raises the sceptre of a new danger in chemical warfare. What's he suggesting? The attack suggests that the Soviets' aim was to update and expand their chemical weapons stockpile in secret, I might add, in Britain. Or they wanted to make a weapon that could be transported across the international borders. So you're an ambassadorial person, you come into Britain, you're not checked out. And you don't have to have much of this to do a horrendous amount of damage. That would allow potentially large amounts of material to be pre-positioned in enemy countries, Britain, America, Europe, prior to the outbreak of war. and dispersed in situ by special forces operating behind the enemy lines. Would you attack Russia, Mrs. Theresa May? Will you come to Europe's aid? You answer that question for me, please. So little surprise, UK expelled 23 Russian diplomats. America did 60. Australia did 2. A whole lot of other countries. There's only 4 countries that haven't agreed with what's going on against Russia. They're extremely concerned. Extremely concerned. So, the scripture tells us Russia will ally with or be occupied by Russia. Europe's scared. Elections are taking place. The situation's switching. Russia-friendly Czech president gets into power late last year. Early last year. Western intelligence services fear Vienna's in Putin's pocket. And on the other side, Sweden and Lithuania giving out books and pamphlets to everybody what to do when Russia comes in. The Lithuanians have released to everybody a 95-page book, What to Do when Russia takes over. Swedes have produced 3 million copies of pamphlets on what to do when Russia threatens them. They're all frightened. And so, Germany quietly working to unite Europe's military. A fully fledged European army is what they desperately want. They're aiming to get it. And they came together to form a mega army of 23 countries. Ultimately, it will be that, because Russia will take control. And Daniel's image will be fulfilled. So for us, the critical question is when? When's he going to come? You've got to answer this question in your own mind. Allow it to affect you. You see, the Lord said this: there shall be upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, no way out. Now, I ask you, do you have an answer to what Putin's up to? Or the problems that North Korea are up to? All of those things? If you do, well, maybe this is not now. But no way out. It looks like what we're seeing now. But then the Lord went on to say, when these things begin, have they begun? Begin to come to pass. Then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Has it begun? My goodness, it has. Hasn't it? Well, there's one clue. Here's another one. Behold the fig tree and all the trees. When they do shoot forth, and the fig tree is the symbol of Israel, isn't it? Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Israel's in the land. A generation, Psalm 90 verse 10, is around about 70 years. We're right on dot. We're 70 years from the state of Israel. And in the Old Testament, speaking of the Jewish people, he said, your people shall all be righteous ultimately, and they shall possess the land forever. So it's the return of Christ. I am the Lord. In that time I will hasten it. And my goodness, hasn't things been going up steeply, quickly last year and this year? I will hasten it. Now lastly, maybe we could turn this quote up. Come with me to Genesis chapter 19. We've just had a special effort on Abraham. And in Genesis chapter 19, you'll recall that Lot left the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, fled. He was instructed to do so by the angel. And when he went outside that city, look at verse 20. He was standing out there looking at that city. And the angel said, behold now, this city, Zoar, is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape. This is Lot speaking, sorry. Let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? And my soul shall live. And he, that is the angel, said unto him, see, I've accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city for the which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither. Now listen to these words. For I cannot do anything till thou come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. So Lot and his family were in Zoar when Sodom was destroyed. They were in safety and security before things went grossly wrong. You see, the message clearly is, we are to be taken, brethren and sisters. We are taken to Sinai, to the judgment seat. And we will be there before things go grossly wrong. Don't wait for any great signs anymore. Things are coming very fast. How long have we got? I don't know. The scripture says we do not know the day nor the hour. We don't know the time. I cannot give it to you. But my goodness, things are looking very, very likely. Lastly, let us therefore be individuals who, like Christ calls on us, to watch. Paul said, watch. Christ closed the book of Revelation, speaking of our age. Watch and keep your garments. The earth will be changed. The earth will be filled with the glory of the Lord. But what we've got to do is watch and transfer that to action so that we're preparing. We're praying, we're studying, we're caring, we're doing those things that are right in the sight of God so that at the time when Christ returns, we might be saved. Well, we'll leave it there, but you can see the signs show to us the time looks to be very near indeed. Thank you.